All right, let's talk really quick about Ismail Haniyeh. This is an interesting, it starts from the US. That's the bitter truth. Americans must become more active. Unfortunately, it's an obvious truth. It's an obvious truth, but unfortunately, people don't care. It seems like people don't really have that much of a problem with the fact that all of our politicians are completely bought off by the Israeli regime. And a lot of people who previously had a problem with it, all of a sudden don't. Very weird how quick that happened. Wow, the funeral procession of I have no idea what he's saying. So this is the photo before, not that long before they killed this journalist. This journalist was reporting on what had happened in Iran with the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh before he was killed. So as many of you know, I'm sure you, Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated on the day of the inauguration of the new Iranian president in Iran, in Tehran. And Ismail Haniyeh was one of the main negotiators, hostage negotiators. I obviously don't know all the details into that, but something about it is super sus. Super sus. Because how did they get in? How did they get the intelligence? And how are they able to be so precise when they seemingly can't be so precise when it comes to Gaza? Something about that ain't right. So, oh, of course we're involved somehow. I just don't know how yet. Don't know how that's going to unfold. But I do know, just based on the statements that all these people have made, I know I was being sarcastic, of course. Of course they could be precise. I want to know how. And also we know that the reason why they're also doing this is because they really, really want to go to war with Iran. And there's no way that the Iranians are going to accept this happening without some type of retaliation, because this was a humiliation for them. And doesn't Iran have a right to defend themselves? I don't hear anybody saying that. And so Iran will retaliate. And then as a result of that, you're going to hear all the warmongers here and in the Israeli regime talking about how we need to go to war with Iran. It's mad weapons of mass destruction vibes. Saint has a good ring to it. Yes, yes. Somebody needs to make me a tacky Catholic looking shirt with that name. Why was I losing my train of thought here? So we know that they are going to be, I know, but Iran can't not respond because then they're going to look really weak. So they're probably going to do what they did last time, where they gave warning before they did a strike, and it was like super weak. But nonetheless, regardless of how Iran responds, the whole point is that they want to go to war with Iran. They've wanted to go to war with Iran for years. You have Netanyahu talking about going to war with Iran for decades. And then you have politicians here in America making up stories about how Iran is just on the brink of getting a nuclear weapon. They've been saying that for 25 years. They're almost there. They're just almost there. They're not. And then the nuclear deal, the JCPOA, was put into place. And then, of course, Donald Trump came in. He got rid of it as soon as he came into office. They have wanted this for years. The neocons in this country and the neocons in that country. So, and what happened to the hostages? Israel has a history of killing Hamas leaders who are trying to secure ceasefires. He was the person that was working. Ismail Haniyeh was the guy that was working on the ceasefire negotiations. He was also working on the hostage deal. Further evidence that they don't actually care about the hostages. They never cared about the hostages. They never, ever, ever, ever wanted to get the hostages back. And they never wanted a ceasefire. That's why they keep taking out those leaders that did that.
استهدفهما في مدينة غزة. إسماعيل الغول كان معنا اليوم من مخيم الشاطئ.
She's talking about how they assassinated Haniyeh and then immediately went after that journalist. Are the Olympics still going on? Israel-Hamas tensions escalate. Get out of here. I thought this point by Squirrel was interesting. You didn't hear about it. Hamas official says that group would lay down its arms if an independent Palestinian state was established. You didn't hear about it because the entire Western media and political class immediately memory hold it. But Ismail Haniyeh proposed that Hamas lay down its arms and accept a two-state solution months ago. They assassinated him because they want genocide. Exactly. This is absolutely true. It is very clear if you watch anything having to do with Israel and Gaza that the impediment to peace has always been Israel. It has never been the Palestinians. That's what they tell Americans. They always tell Americans, oh, we have no partner for peace. You know, they won't stop firing rockets. They want from the river to the sea. We can never have it, blah, 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 blah. But when you actually read at the history and actually understand the history and actually learn about it and listen to the Palestinians and listen to what the resistance groups have said, it has always been and what Israel has said. The right-wingers who talk about greater Israel and Netanyahu talking about settlements, they have always been the impediment to peace. They literally assassinated one of their own prime ministers. The idea that they might create some type of two-state solution or peace. What was his name? Ismail Rabin? Something like that? This is the UN in Palestine talking about what happened to Ismail Haniyeh.
Believe there will never be the Palestinian leadership condemns in the strongest terms the assassination of former Palestinian Prime Minister and head of the political bureau of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, in Tehran today. We demand accountability.
Do you condemn Hamas though? But do you, Itzhak Rabin, thank you. Itzhak Rabin, correct. Thank you, Marco. Do you condemn Hamas though? Doesn't anybody else think it's sus that they went after the political bureau?
For this assassination, as we have continually demanded accountability for the wanton murder and injury of over 130,000 Palestinian children, women, and men across these past 300 days of horror and hell in Gaza, and call for accountability for all of Israel's criminal policies and practices in our territory across the decades. Mr. President, violence and terror are clearly Israel's main and only currency. International law, not diplomacy, not mediation, not respect for human life. There is no red line for Israel. No law it will not breach.
True.
No norm it will not trample.
True.
No act too depraved or barbaric for its occupying army and settler militias. And no child, woman, or man off limits, even babies considered legitimate targets. The Israeli Prime Minister and his coalition of government extremists and military commanders believe there will never be a cost for their crimes. They believe they can literally get away with murder, get away with genocide against the Palestinian people. They believe it because it has been possible until now. No resolution, no ICJ order, no ceasefire calls have been respected. No demand for protection of civilians and humanitarian access has been heeded, and still no consequences whatsoever for Israel. Israel is proving every single day that it will continue to act as a rogue state. The assassination today and all the crimes preceding it and that have followed it in the ensuing hours prove this beyond the shadow of a doubt. Israel openly declares its intentions to carry on, defying the Council and the international community as a whole, brazenly carrying on with its scorched earth killing and destruction spree in Gaza, vowing to further entrench its colonial annexationist occupation and its racist, discriminatory, hateful policies against the Palestinian people and recklessly escalating tensions. There is no right that Israel can claim.
It's actually almost unbelievable if you didn't know it was happening for sure. When you listen to this woman talk, if you didn't know for sure what they had done and everything that they continue to do, it would sound like what she is saying is unbelievable. How is somebody getting away with this? Guys asked, how old is Blakeley? Why is this a trend lately? There's been a trend lately about people asking my age. I'm probably younger than you think. And I say that only because my entire life, I've always been mistaken for being older than I was. Even when I was a teenager. When I was like 17, 18, people thought I was in my mid-20s. I remember when I was 21, people thought I was 28. So like, I'm probably younger than you assume because I just said I'm always mistaken for being much older than I am. But does it matter though? Does it matter? Why would it matter what my age is?
to justify these war crimes and crimes against humanity. The right to peace and security is the
No, guys, it's okay. It's not like a huge deal. I just find it interesting that so many people are always asking me that. Yeah, I just think I'm not mad or anything. I find it interesting that I get asked that a lot. And I'm like, why does it matter?
right of all states in the region and in every region of the world. It is not an exclusive right of Israel. Mr. President, Israel has been the oppressor, tormentor, and murderer of Palestinians for decades, and it is the long-standing destabilizer of our region. It must be stopped. The international community has a choice to make. Let it be for peace and security. Do not let Israel drag us all to the abyss.
Seriously, why doesn't anybody care that that's happening? Honestly, why doesn't anybody care that that's happening? They're literally dragging the entire world and region down with them. And everybody's like, they have been such a destructive force. Not only that, but I do find it very ironic that the whole point of Israel supposedly was supposed to be a safe haven for Jewish people. I can't think of a more volatile way to live than to constantly I don't even remember where I was watching it because I watch so much like content now on Gaza and Israel. But I was watching this video and just like looking at some of the ways that it's so militarized there, the checkpoints and the guards. And I'm like, this is supposed to be safety. First of all, your safety cannot come at the expense of the dignity and freedom and human rights of another group that you're living on top of and literally keeping in a cage so that they can't break out and have freedom too. That's number one. But number two, how are you saying that this is about freedom and this is about safety when you're causing havoc everywhere and you have to have constant security and constant checkpoints in order to secure this so-called freedom and safety? It seems as though the opposite is happening. Does no one notice that? I don't understand. Does no one notice that the opposite seems to be happening? Oh, that was the end. I really want to get a Palestinian flag to let in my apartment. That would be really cool. That would be very cool. Oh, I know. They're trying to sell off their land. It's insane. It's insane. I want to get a Palestinian flag, but I don't want to buy some like cheap one off like Amazon that's like made by some factory. I want to get one that's like from a Palestinian brand so I can support Palestinian brands. Yes, Palestine was a huge reason for 9/11, but also the fact that the US had military bases in Saudi Arabia, the Muslim Holy Land. Yes. I feel like that a lot of times the 9/11, whenever we're talking about 9/11, it always gets boiled down to something too simplistic. But it definitely had multiple reasons. Our support for Israel was definitely one of them. But as God said, it was also the fact that the US had multiple bases there, and they felt like Osama bin Laden specifically felt like it was a slap in the face to the Holy Lands, which, first of all, I'm not here to defend Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden is not some awesome guy or whatever, especially since it wasn't like what's happening with the Palestinians, where the Palestinians are oppressed against their will and there's nothing they can do about it and they have no freedom. The Saudis are not innocent in the West being there. They're absolutely complicit in the West being there. I've read the letter by Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden had it like he was acting like the West was just there trampling all over the Saudis and taking their oil and disrespecting Mecca. Bro, the Saudi royal family and the kingdom were absolutely complicit in that. It was not just the West being there, like the great Satan. They were they were working together. The Saudis were allowing the US to have those bases there, and they were buying oil from them. So this idea that Osama bin Laden had, where it was like the great Satan just came in and set up all these bases against the Saudis' will, now that's not what happened. Absolutely complicit in it. It's different. It is different when it comes to Palestine because of the fact that the Palestinians don't have any freedom. They're being held against their will. They're being oppressed and not given any type of freedom. That is not the case in Saudi Arabia. Specifically speaking, obviously, about the Saudi government. People forget that Osama bin Laden's dad was a construction magnate who actually helped build infrastructure for the American government to come in and build up those oil fields. And he was also propped up when he was in Afghanistan, when he was working with the Mujahideen to get out the Soviets from Afghanistan. So all I'm saying is I'm not going to try to whitewash Osama bin Laden as if he was some really, really great guy that really just cared about the freedom of people, and he was just really opposed to the West and Israel. Those things were true, but that was not the only reason why he opposed them. And in fact, when it came to Kuwait, right? Remember, what's his bucket from Iran? Saddam Hussein, not Iran, Iraq. Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait. Osama bin Laden actually went to the Saudi government and said, oh, I could help fight them, because the Saudi government was concerned that if Saddam Hussein was going to just invade Kuwait like no thing, they were kind of concerned that he might do the same to them. And Osama bin Laden's like, hey, man, I can help. And the Saudi government was like, that's okay. And who did the Saudi government go to help in Kuwait? The U.S., the great Satan. So we're talking two peas in a pod here. We are fully allied with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has been our ally for a long time. We've been working with them for a very long time. So let's not pretend that Saudi Arabia or Osama bin Laden were just these flowers that were just trying to live their lives, and the great Satan came in and took all their oil. Just saying. Because I feel like that there are some people, especially when the Osama bin Laden letter recirculated, that were trying to retcon him in his image. Let's not. We should just be accurate about what the history was. On 9/12, the only airplane that was allowed to fly was on the bin Laden's family private plane instead of the FBI questioning them. That's correct. That's correct. And they still have never released all the files. They've never released all the files from 9/11, which also sus. Why? Very weird. All right, so we're going to talk about the video where, oh my gosh, the people that were protesting in Israel that were mad that some soldiers who had tortured Palestinian detainees were apprehended for a little bit. They let them out. So we're going to have to, exactly, Nader, you're right. It was after the fall of the USSR. So we're going to have to talk about that because it's super dark, but it's important. Saudi-sponsored 9/11 was published an article recently. Where? Who published that article? I want to watch a video talking about the Israelis. First of all, a little break reminder because I need to grab my water. To subscribe to my YouTube, become a member. You can become a member on YouTube. I've been on live for over an hour, and not one person has sent me a sticker. Not one of yous has sent me a sticker or a super chat. Over an hour. But seriously, you can become a member on my YouTube. You can send super chats. You can send super chats and stickers to me during this live. Or you can become a member on my Ko-Fi, or you can become, I think, a member on Instagram or a subscriber on Instagram, or you can donate to my Venmo to support my work. Thank you in advance. And then let's talk about, I'm going to grab my water, and then let's talk about the Palestinian detainees